For this assignment, you will be doing an engineering project that I've titled Exploring Forces That Affect a Kite in Flight. And what you'll be doing is you'll be going through all the different parts here. There's 4 parts. There's going to be an introduction, an experiment, data collection, and analysis. Analysis is just the analysis of your data collected. And that means that when you collect data, you just want to figure out what that data shows or what it demonstrates. And then you write a conclusion based on what the science that you know is, and also based on your analysis and your results. So one thing that I put here as an important note, it's right here, is that you want to remember to compile your information sources or your works cited for this project by using, there's a Google Docs app called the EasyBib Bibliography Creator, and it's just such a great app to use with Google Docs. It's very easy to use. Right up here you'll see add-ons on the toolbar, and you just can you go to get add-ons. I already have it on mine, so that's how it's going to show up on yours once you get it, but it's free. And you click on here, and what you'll do is you'll find it in here. You'll have to look around. Here it is right here. Sometimes it's over here. Just look around until you find EasyBib, and then mine just says manage because mine's already on there, but here's one that I don't have yet. So that's really what it's going to look like for you. It'll just say free, and you click on there, and then you'll get this EasyBib on there. It's very simple. So now that it's going to be on there, and by the way, you might want to look through some of those apps because some of them might be helpful for you. I downloaded this one to insert diagrams, but it's just something, just you may not need it for this project, but there's a lot of free add-ons for Google Docs that are pretty cool that you can use in your papers. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go over to Manage Bibliography, and what it immediately does is puts this sidebar here, and I can put any of the sources that I use. For example, if I'm going to use this source here about, maybe I'm going to use this to make my kite, this website. So I'm just going to copy and paste that over here. Well, first I need to click on websites, and then I'll put that in there, and I'll search for it, and then it is this one. That's what I have to make sure that's it. Yes, it is. So I select that, and now it's in my bibliography right here, and I would like you to use the MLA style. That's just, there's different ways that it formats it. Just use the first one here. And then this will, even if you come back to this later, this will save this list for you. So as many as you put on there, let's just put another one on there. Here's another instructable about how to make a kite. Let's say I use that for any information. I'm going to say yes, that is the one. It's instructables. And now I have 2 on my bibliography list. Now, I'm going to do something which I'm not going to, you wouldn't do this until you were totally done, but I'm going to do it right now just to show you what happens when I put add bibliography to doc. What it does is it puts your bibliography at the very end of your paper. There it is right here. And it's in the right format, and how easy is that? It's great. So that's what you're going to be doing. I'm going to go ahead and take that back out. The other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take this entire thing and highlight it, and then you're going to want to copy it, and then go into a new document, and you're going to go ahead and paste it there. And this then becomes your paper. You can't edit or add anything to this one that I've created back here, but you can, now that you have your own copy of it, you can come up here and you can put your name and the title of it. And so I'm not going to type the whole thing in, but just the title and your name in the, so here it is, name, and then this should say engineering project, physical science B. That would be the most complete. Now what you can do is you can actually fill in all of these squares that I've put in for you. I'm just randomly filling them in. Of course, you're going to fill them in with actual words. And so that just helps so that you can, it's a good format for you to use. Because really all you're doing for this project, there's a lot of words because there's a lot of direction, but just take it one at a time. Part one, just do that maybe for a day or a couple days. And then take the next part two is a little bit hefty because you have to create a kite. You have to make one, or you could use one that you already have. But here's a few websites that show different ways, different kites that are very simple to make. I don't care what kite you make. I don't care what kind of kite you start out with, as long as it's a kite that you can alter, because what you're going to do is that whatever kite you start out with, that's your control kite, meaning that's the one that's going to stay the same, and you only are going to actually use one kite. So what you're going to do is you're going to alter it. Maybe you'll add a tail to the kite, a long tail, or maybe you're going to add some different number of tails, or you might want to change, if you're going to change the kite size or the kite material, then you would have to make more than one kite, because that would be something you couldn't easily alter on the kite that you already have. So you're going to think of 3 different variables that you're going to test. But what I'm asking you here is, what kite method did you use? You can either use one of these, or you can use your own method of making a kite. Why did you choose the method and the kite materials you did? Now you're going to test, choose 3 variables, and you're going to write a hypothesis. So you're going to choose 3 variables, and you're going to write a hypothesis on how you think each one will affect the flight of the kite. So that happens before you even test anything. You need to make a hypothesis. And then down here you're going to start to take some data down. So you're going to test your control kite, which is the one you originally made with no alterations, and you're going to fly it, and you're just going to have a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is no flight and 10 is the best flight. And you're going to make sure you always keep your speed of your flyer slash person flying the kite always the same. So you're going to always, and every time you do your experiment, like when you go and test out variable 1 and variable 2 and variable 3, you always want to make sure you're always either running every time, and I would suggest running, honestly, because it'd be easier to get the kite up, or you always want to be walking. Unless you're testing the speed of the walker or the flyer, sorry, the flyer, then if that's one of the variables you're testing, then that will be different than, let's say you're going to have your control kite always be running, the person's going to be running, and then for your variable 1, you're just, maybe you're testing the kite's, the number of tails on the kite, so you still want to run. On this one, you're going to test, let's say, the length of the kite tail. So you still want to run on this one. Everything's got to be the same except for the one thing you're changing. And by the way, when you change something here and you're going to still use the same kite, you have to take whatever you added and take it off to bring it back to the control again, to the original form, and then you change to test variable 2. So for example, if you had this, like I said, number of tails, let's say you're going to test what does 3 tails on a kite do compared to maybe your control only has one tail. What does three tails do? So you test that out, but then when you're going to test your next variable, you got to take those tails off and just go back to the one tail the control originally had. Then let's say you're testing tail length. You're going to take, actually you might end up taking off that other tail, the one that's on here, because you're going to replace it with a longer tail, or maybe you'll add to that tail, that original tail. It's up to you how you're going to do this, but you want to take that tail off and bring it back to its original form again before you do your third test. And what I was going to say is that if, well, let's say you're testing the speed of the person flying. So if you're running all the time, like you're running on this one, on the control, when you're doing variable 1 and variable 2, you're not going to, of course, be running on variable 3 because you're actually testing for the speed, so you'll walk on that one. But your kite will be exactly the same as the control kite. Because, like I said, you only want to change one thing when you're testing a variable, and in this case, what you're changing is just the speed, so the kite should look exactly the same. The reason you do that is so that you can know if that one thing is having an effect. If you changed a couple of different things, then you really wouldn't know what was having the effect, which variable was having the effect on the kite flying. So always remember to go back to whatever your control was when you're thinking about doing these experiments. I'm also going to ask you to take a picture of your kites, and there's some directions on how to do that here, and then you're going to write a conclusion. So I want your conclusion to be related to the forces of lift and drag on the kite, and I want it to be a scientific explanation explaining why you think whichever one had the best effect on the kite, whichever variable had the most positive effect on the kite flying, as far as, whether it was a 0 to 10, which had the best flight, then you'll talk about why you think that is scientifically. And I guess when we say best flight, that is a subjective kind of thing. It's really up to you to determine what that means. So you'll just have to be able to sort of present what you consider the best flight was. So that's really it. If you have any questions, let me know, and I hope you can finish this in a week's time. Oh, actually, it's going to be a total of a week, but if it's raining for the week you're doing this, then you're not going to be able to do the whole thing until the weather's better, and that's why I put it in the middle of the semester, so that could be a possibility.